Emma Parker was 68 years old when she decided to go back to school. Her neighbors in Willow Creek, a quiet town in the Midwest, thought she was joking when she told them, "Emma, aren't you a little old for that?" Mrs. Reynolds, her friend from across the street, asked one morning, "Why not just enjoy retirement? Travel, relax, watch TV." But Emma shook her head and smiled. "I've always wanted to learn Spanish," she said, "and maybe some computer skills too. I don't want my brain to sit still." Her story didn't start at 68. It started much earlier, when Emma was a little girl. She had grown up in a working-class family. Her father fixed cars. Her mother worked at a diner. They didn't have much money, and Emma had to leave college after 1 year to help support the family. She married young, raised 2 children, and worked as a nurse's assistant for more than 30 years. Life was busy, practical, and full of responsibilities. Learning for Emma had always been a dream, something she put on the shelf like an old book, waiting for the right time. Now, after retirement, she finally felt free to take it down and open the pages. On her first day of class at the community college, Emma felt nervous. The room was full of young people, some just 18, some in their early 20s. They wore jeans, hoodies, headphones, and carried sleek laptops. Emma walked in carrying a notebook, a pen, and a nervous smile. The professor, a cheerful man in his 40s, welcomed her warmly. "Everyone, this is Emma Parker. She's joining us to study Spanish this semester. Let's give her a big round of applause." The students clapped politely. Emma blushed. She felt out of place, but also proud. During the first week, Emma struggled. The words felt slippery in her mouth. The students around her typed notes quickly on their laptops while she wrote slowly by hand. She worried that her memory wasn't as sharp as it used to be. One night, after class, she almost gave up. She sat at her kitchen table staring at the textbook. The verb conjugations looked like puzzles she couldn't solve. Tears filled her eyes. "Maybe they were right," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I am too old for this." But then she remembered something her granddaughter Lily had told her just a few weeks before. "Grandma, your brain is like a muscle. If you use it, it gets stronger. If you don't, it gets weak. You always told me never to give up, right?" Emma wiped her tears, straightened her back, and whispered, "Okay, no giving up." She began to study in small steps, 15 minutes at a time. She made flashcards and put them on the fridge. She practiced Spanish greetings with her cat, Oliver. She even changed her phone settings to Spanish, which confused her at first but made her laugh. And slowly, she started to notice progress. In class, when the professor asked questions, Emma raised her hand. Her voice was shaky, but her answers were right. The younger students began to notice her determination. One of them, a tall boy named Chris, leaned over one day and said, "Mrs. Parker, you're actually really good at this. Can we study together sometime?" Emma's heart swelled with joy. She wasn't just learning Spanish. She was building connections, breaking stereotypes, and proving that age didn't define her ability to grow. By mid-semester, Emma could hold a short conversation in Spanish. She greeted the cashier at the grocery store with "Buenos dias" and asked simple questions. The cashier, who spoke Spanish as her first language, smiled warmly and replied, "Muy bien, señora. Está aprendiendo." That night, Emma journaled, "I'm not too old. I'm just getting started. Why lifelong learning matters." Emma's journey was more than just about learning Spanish. It was about keeping her mind alive, her spirit curious, and her life meaningful. Scientists say that learning new things at any age helps the brain stay flexible. It builds new connections between neurons, like growing new pathways in a forest. For Emma, that meant her memory improved. She felt sharper, more alert, and even more confident in daily life. But there was something deeper, too. For years, Emma had lived in routine: work, chores, family. Now she had a challenge that was hers alone. It gave her purpose. It reminded her that she wasn't finished, that life could still surprise her. She even started teaching her granddaughter Lily some Spanish words. "Sí," Emma said proudly one evening. "Learning never ends. If I can do it at 68, you can do it at 8. Lily giggled and repeated after her, "Gracias, abuela." By the end of the semester, Emma had passed her Spanish class with a solid B. She framed the certificate and hung it in her living room. For her, it was more than paper. It was proof that she could still grow, adapt, and dream. The next semester, she signed up for a computer class. That, too, was hard. She was afraid of clicking the wrong button and breaking the computer. But just like before, step by step, she learned. Her children, now in their 40s, couldn't believe it. "Mom, you're better at sending emails than Dad now," her son joked. Emma just smiled. She knew the truth. She was better at sending herself into new adventures. Emma's success in Spanish class gave her confidence to try new things. That winter, she signed up for a computer basics course. The class met every Tuesday evening in the technology building at the community college. Walking into the lab for the first time, Emma felt nervous all over again. The room was filled with glowing screens, clicking keyboards, and the fast chat of students. Some of them barely looked up from their phones. Emma sat down carefully, placing her notebook next to the keyboard. The instructor, a young woman named Rachel, noticed Emma's worried expression and smiled. "Don't worry," she said kindly. "Computers aren't scary. They're just tools. You'll be fine." The first assignment was simple: learning how to create an email account. The younger students finished in minutes. Emma's fingers trembled as she searched for the right keys. She accidentally typed her password into the wrong box 3 times, and the computer beeped at her. Her cheeks grew hot. She thought about leaving. But then she remembered Spanish class and the way she had overcome her fears. "Step by step," she whispered to herself, "I can do this." Slowly, she created her first email. When she finally clicked send and watched her message fly across the screen, she gasped. "It's like magic," she said aloud, making the students around her chuckle. Rachel nodded. "Exactly. Technology is a kind of magic, but it's a magic everyone can learn." Making friends across generations. By the 3rd week, Emma noticed something surprising. The young students started coming to her for advice, not about computers, but about life. One evening, Chris, the boy from her Spanish class, sat down next to her again. "Mrs. Parker, can I ask you something? It's kind of personal." "Of course," Emma said. "I don't know what I want to do with my life," Chris admitted. "My parents want me to study business, but I'm not sure. You seem confident. How did you figure out what you wanted?" Emma smiled gently. "Oh, Chris, I didn't always know. I worked as a nurse's assistant because I needed a job. I raised a family because I loved them. But my dreams, some of them had to wait. And now I'm chasing them." "So you think it's okay if I don't have everything figured out?" he asked. Emma patted his hand. "Of course. Life isn't a straight road. It's more like a river. It twists, turns, and sometimes you end up somewhere you didn't expect. The important thing is to keep learning. That way, no matter where the river takes you, you'll be ready." Chris nodded slowly, as if her words lifted a weight off his shoulders. From that day forward, Emma was no longer just another student. She became something more, a mentor, a friend, a living example that learning never ends. Small victories. Each week, Emma learned a new computer skill. First email, then word processing, then how to search for information online. She was amazed. One evening, she searched for Spanish recipes and found a video on how to make tortilla española. She watched it 3 times, wrote down the steps, and cooked it at home. When her children came over for dinner, they were surprised. "Mom, this is delicious. Where did you learn to make this?" her daughter asked. "From the internet," Emma said proudly. "I'm practically a chef now." Her children laughed, but they were impressed. They saw their mother not as someone slowing down, but as someone speeding up. The more Emma learned, the braver she felt. She joined a local book club, started attending free lectures at the library, and even tried an online fitness class. Every new skill gave her a spark of energy. She felt younger, more alive, the fear of falling behind. But not every day was easy. One afternoon, Emma overheard 2 younger students whispering about her in class. "Why is she even here?" One said. "She's slowing us down," the other replied. The word stung. Emma felt her chest tighten. For a moment, she considered quitting again. That night, she sat in her kitchen staring at her laptop. "Maybe they're right," she thought. "Maybe I don't belong." But then her phone buzzed. It was a message from Chris. "Thanks for the advice today. You really helped me think about my future. I'm glad you're in class with us." Emma's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of gratitude. She realized something important. She wasn't just learning for herself. She was showing others what was possible. Why learning keeps us alive. Emma began to see that learning wasn't only about information. It was about connection. Connection to herself, to her community, and to the world. She read an article that said lifelong learning reduces stress, improves memory, and can even delay diseases like Alzheimer's. She thought about her grandmother, who had grown quiet and withdrawn in her later years. Maybe, Emma wondered, if her grandmother had kept learning, she would have felt more joy, more energy. Emma didn't want to fade away. She wanted to shine. So she made herself a promise. "I will keep learning as long as I live." A new adventure. At the end of the semester, Emma passed her computer class with an A-. She celebrated with her family at her favorite diner. "What's next, Mom?" her son asked. Emma grinned. Public speaking. Her children stared at her. "Public speaking? You hate microphones." "Exactly," Emma replied. "That's why I need to learn." Fear is just a sign that something important is waiting on the other side. And so, the next semester, Emma stood in front of class once again, not as a shy beginner, but as a brave explorer. Her voice shook at first, but with each speech, she grew stronger. She realized that every time she stepped into something new, she wasn't just adding skills, she was rewriting her story. Emma's public speaking class was one of the hardest challenges she had ever faced. Standing in front of 20 people, with all eyes on her, made her palms sweat and her heart race. She remembered the first day she introduced herself. "My name is Emma Parker," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm 69 years old, and I'm here because I want to face my fears." There was silence for a moment, and then the room broke into applause. From that day forward, Emma treated every speech like a mountain climb. Sometimes she stumbled, sometimes she forgot her lines, but each time she reached a little higher. Her classmates admired her courage. "If Emma can do this," one of them whispered after class, "then what excuse do we have?" Emma didn't see herself as brave. She simply saw herself as unfinished. Someone who still had chapters left to write, sharing her story. At the end of the semester, each student had to give a final speech. Emma chose the topic, "Age is not a barrier to learning." She stood tall behind the podium, her gray hair catching the light, her hand steady this time. "When I first walked into this school," she began, "I thought I might not belong. I thought people would laugh at me. But what I discovered is that learning is not about age. It's about spirit." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I've learned Spanish. I've learned how to use computers. And now, I've learned how to stand here and speak to you. Every step has shown me that the brain does not retire, the heart does not retire, and dreams do not retire. Only we can choose to stop, and I choose to keep going." Her classmates cheered. Some even wiped away tears. That night, when Emma got home, she wrote in her journal, "I have found my voice, inspiring others." Emma's story began to spread. Rachel, her computer teacher, told other instructors about her. Chris shared Emma's advice with his friends. And soon, the college invited Emma to speak at a community event about lifelong learning. At first, Emma wanted to say no. The idea of speaking in front of a large audience scared her. But then she remembered her promise. Never stop learning, never stop growing. So she said yes. The event took place in the town library. The room was filled with people of all ages, students, parents, grandparents, and teachers. Emma walked to the stage, holding her notes but speaking mostly from the heart. "I stand here today," she said, "as proof that age is not an obstacle. Learning keeps us alive. It keeps us curious, strong, and connected. I encourage each of you, whether you're 15 or 85, to pick up a book, join a class, learn a language, or simply try something new. Life is a classroom, and we are all students until the very end." The audience rose to their feet. Emma had never felt so alive. Why it matters. In the weeks that followed, Emma continued her journey. She signed up for an online art course. She joined a history discussion group. She even began writing short stories about her life. She discovered something powerful. Learning wasn't only about skills. It was about joy. It gave her mornings filled with purpose, evenings filled with laughter, and days that felt rich with meaning. Her friends noticed a change. "Emma, you look 10 years younger," Mrs. Reynolds said one afternoon. Emma laughed. "That's the secret. Learning is better than any wrinkle cream." But Emma also understood the deeper truth. Lifelong learning protected her mind. Studies showed it reduced the risk of memory loss. More importantly, it gave her a reason to get out of bed every morning, to keep chasing the horizon, passing it on. One summer afternoon, Emma sat with her granddaughter Lily on the porch. The warm breeze carried the sound of birds. "Grandma," Lily asked, "why do you keep going to school? Don't you already know enough?" Emma smiled and wrapped her arm around the little girl. "Sweetheart, learning isn't just about knowing facts. It's about staying alive inside. It's about keeping your heart open to new ideas, new people, new adventures. The world changes every day. If we stop learning, we stop growing. And if we stop growing, we stop living." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "So when I'm old, I should keep learning too?" Emma kissed her forehead. "Not just when you're old, Lily, every single day of your life." The never-ending classroom. Years later, when Emma turned 75, her house was full of reminders of her journey. A certificate in Spanish on the wall. a laptop glowing on her desk, books stacked high by her bed, paintings from her art class on the kitchen walls. She had built a life where every day was a classroom, and the truth was, Emma didn't feel old anymore. She felt timeless, because learning had no expiration date. One evening, as the sun set over Willow Creek, Emma sat at her desk and began writing the first chapter of her memoir. She titled it, The Never-Ending Classroom. As her pen moved across the page, she thought, this is not the end. This is just another lesson. Final reflection. Emma's story shows that age is never a barrier. The only barrier is a belief that it's too late. Lifelong learning keeps the mind sharp. It's like exercise for the brain. Learning creates purpose. It gives life meaning, direction, and joy. It builds connections between generations, between cultures, between people. It inspires others. When one person keeps learning, it shows everyone else what's possible. So whether you are 8, 18, or 80, remember Emma's words. Life is a classroom, and we are all students until the very end.